Watching Israeli News Live. Those of you that are joining us here on YouTube will be watching it live here. The broadcast also being prepared for Patreon. That's patreon.com/Israeli News Live. There, I'll try to make sure I put that in the description for you guys below. This broadcast will not run in its entirety on Israeli News Live on YouTube. The reason being, the information is very delicate. I am dealing with only three. I can also bring in a fourth intelligence operative that I am in contact with. So I could go four in this particular broadcast. But on this particular one here, I'm going to share with you, with three of my sources, the situation in Iran. But we're going to back up. We're going to back up just a little bit here. And I will, those of you that would like to see the full broadcast, let me go ahead and let you know now. You could go over to Patreon and see the rest of it. Now, there's just some personal thoughts I'm going to share with you guys based on this intel that I have. So I'm not sure exactly when I will cut the feed there, but you will have the gist of it. So let me just say that. I don't want you to feel left out, but there are some things that I think would be just a little bit risky to put everything here. So, you know, my father always said, never put all your eggs in one basket. That's not very wise to do. Now, I want to take you back. On May the 6th, one friend that I have, that tremendous source of intelligence out of the Middle East. I will not mention this person by name, but I had gotten was getting a set of information, and some of my communications are by we talk by phone. We have other ways of communicating as well. We have multiple different ways that we communicate, and some ways we try to do this as secure as we possibly can. I might also add, there is information that I also get that I never speak about publicly. If it's something that I feel like will jeopardize our troops, regardless if I agree with it or not, I will not disclose that information either. But I do get some pretty sensitive things. And what I see going on here with Iran, I see a coordinated effort that's been put together to put the blame on Iran to justify a war against this nation. I don't agree with the current government of Iran and the way they handle things there, but I don't think that that gives us a justified reason to go and attack another nation. But at the same time, I know that there are things that are being told to us in the Western media that are a complete farce, but it's only a cover story because there are things that are happening in the background that is far more serious and quite frankly to the national security of the United States of America. Some of this information, as I said before in other broadcasts, I was given the liberty to speak and share these things with you, but I think that some of the notes, and I've made myself notes from some of the conversations that I've had. As I said, some of these conversations I carry out just directly. Won't go exactly how we do this, but I wanted to just share with you from my own notes that I have here. So with one of my sources here, May the 6th, we were speaking there, and they were sharing with me that some members of the Iranian opposition group who have been very close to John Bolton, which is the Mujahideen of Iran, and I do stand corrected on one thing there. If you go back to my broadcast during this time, around the 6th, also on the, I think the 15th of May, I'm talking about these groups here. I was getting things a little bit confused at the time from the conversations that we were having there. But in this broadcast here, I've been able to better hone these things out. But anyway, this was being shared with me that the opposition groups who have been close to John Bolton, which is the Mujahideen of Iran, were arrested while trying to purchase speedboats. They were similar to that of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, those speedboats there. Now, you need to keep that in mind. Based on, and let me just show you this real quick. I'll move forward a little bit. All right. Let me pull up a picture for you. I'm going to need a picture, I guess, of this right here. U.S. video of Iranian vessel, and then we'll put the word tanker in here. I probably typed it wrong. I can't see very well even with my glasses on. Yeah, here we go right here. Excuse me. This is from The Guardian right here. Now, a couple of things, and we're going to be getting into this as we go along here. If you look here, this is the vessel right here. One of the things that was pointed out to me from the same source that I have here from the Middle East there is the number of alleged Iranians that are on this vessel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, at least 13 men are on this vessel that is alleged to be removing a mine. All right? Also, it is noted, because there's this gun right in here, which is typical on the Iranian vessels to have these guns mounted, and the vessel with the markings on there, etc. All right? Now, this is the Japanese tanker that was one of the 2 Japanese tankers that was struck, and of course, U.S. Navy saying that they had this footage here showing this vessel next to them. And of course, they had filmed them allegedly taking off a mine. So, but backing up to May, because this, I mean, we're talking about this coming out, what, yesterday, day before yesterday, June 16th or June 17th is when they came out with this video. But back on May the 6th, okay, the People's Mujahideen of Iran were arrested while trying to purchase speedboats similar to the ones that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard was using. All right? Specifically the ones that they use in the Persian Gulf there. Apparently, a false flag operation was underway, but not by Americans, but by these guys who try to stir up a bunch of, well, blankety blank, and hope that it would hit the fan. The blankety blank would hit the fan. Apparently, the coordinations between the U.S. and the Iranian Navy is still ongoing in the Gulf to avoid any mishaps. All right? The Iranian army is on the highest alert. Nobody takes a day off. For the time being, they sell over 1 million barrels of oil a day. All right? So this was the first information that I was getting on my first intel coming out of the Middle East. Now, I've got some that I'm not sharing as I go over this here, but you need to keep in mind that I was being told that there were arrests that were being made. All right, let me go back to it again real quick. That these guys, okay, they were actually, I'm sorry, they were caught trying to purchase the boats. Now, later, almost 20 days later, 19 days later, or even sooner than that, I think it was on the 15th of May, we begin to get more information about this and how that these boats that Iran purchases are actually purchased inside of Sweden. Sweden makes, the boats that you see here are made in Sweden for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. But there were other companies, including that of Kuwait, that were manufacturing these types of boats. And allegedly, it is part of the Mujahideen of Iran who was trying to purchase these boats and were arrested as a result. All right? Now, we go forward again. That was on the 15th of May. As we move forward, my source from the Middle East told me then that back in 1980 to 1987, Iran was being angered by the Arabic countries that support for Iraq started to attack the tankers carrying oil through the Strait of Hormuz. So after that all happened, of course, the Saudis decided to build their pipeline over to the other side of the country, over towards where the Red Sea is, right? And the Suez Canal, instead of the northern side of the kingdom. That is why Iran is in Yemen, he pointed out, because they're moving the oil, the way they're going to get their oil out of the country. He went on to say, the double attack to the shops in the Persian Gulf as well as by drones, the pipeline was intended to show that Iran can still shut down the alternative route as well. All right, now, I want to take you back over here. This is what this article is all about on Reuters right here. The Saudi oil pipeline was hit by a drone. I'm going to play for you this little clip here because this is going back. This was the response of my intelligence sources out of the Middle East that were discussing the situation on this article right here. Listen in.
Fresh attacks Tuesday on oil supplies in the Middle East. Just days after these tankers were hit at anchor off the UAE, Saudi Arabia says a pipeline and pumping station near Riyadh have been struck by armed drones. Earlier Tuesday, a Houthi-run TV station said the Yemeni group had carried out drone attacks on Saudi assets. It wasn't clear if that was a claim of responsibility for the tanker or pipeline incidents. Reuters oil correspondent Dmitry Zhdanikov is following the story from London.
There haven't been any convincing statement from either side to blame anyone. For instance, I mean, people have suggested it could be Iran, but there've been no statement from either the Saudi or American side, and Iran has actually denied having anything to do with the attacks and said it's very worrisome.
On Tuesday, one Iranian lawmaker called the tanker attacks, quote, Israeli mischief. US officials said such statements were an attempt to muddy the waters. Washington's ambassador...
All right, now, a couple of things I want you to pay close attention to. Because like I said, this is very, very deep information, and I'm talking about 3 different intelligence sources that I work with here. Only using 3. He mentioned in there that some of them call this Israeli mischief. They also say that the Houthi rebels in Yemen were taking responsibility for the drone attacks. Again, as I said, I will be weighing in some of my personal observations after 7 years intelligence myself on what I think as well on these. So let's continue on. This is why Iran is in Yemen. The double attack of the shops in Persian Gulf as well as by drones in the pipeline was intended to show that Iran can shut down the alternative route as well. The strange thing is the United Arab Emirates is talking about sabotage attack. You need to remember that right there. United Arab Emirates is talking about sabotage attack. The fact is they still have not been able to figure out what hit them. The Speaker of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has today spoken about a secret weapon, don't forget that either, that Iran has that can destroy every American ship in the Gulf. I would normally say he is bluffing, but the attack on the ships makes me wonder. All right? As I said, I want you to hold some of these key verbiages in mind. And I'm going slow, guys. I want you to really see what's going on. And I have a feeling, those of you that are watching on YouTube live right now, you probably are going to be not able to get to hear much of this. I can only imagine when we were recording on Hebrew Nation Radio some of this information today, we were heavily targeted. All right? So I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Now, on June 13th, we went silent for a little bit. I shouldn't say silent because I'm in contact quite a bit. But now I have a different source. I'm not going to say even remotely where this source is from. You should know that Iran and China, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you, this is U.S. intelligence. And I have 3 sources, U.S. intelligence, that I work with here, including former colleagues as well. You should know that Iran and China have been working together on some technologies that are beyond U.S. capabilities. Now, what I'm saying with you right there, those of you that are listening, especially people that are military or former military, I was asked to make that public. I withheld it the first time I reported because I felt like that should not be made public for the interest of American soldiers that are serving. Even though I don't agree with what's going on, and I don't agree with any type of a war against Iran, I still care about our American soldiers being in harm's way. Because many times they're just following orders. It's the way it is. All right, I know how it is. So, but anyway, we're working on some technologies that are beyond U.S. capabilities. We have been having difficulty mitigating these technologies. There are many that are aware of this and observing U.S. responses. In other words, it's no mystery in the Middle East what's being stated right here. Now, as I mentioned that, let me go to my Middle Eastern source. And what was being said here, let me get the right one here. Okay, the drones pipeline attended, okay, shut down alternative route as well. The strange thing is the UAE is talking about sabotage attack. Okay, not that one. The speaker has today spoken about, okay, yeah, here we go. The speaker of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has spoken today about a secret weapon that Iran has that can destroy every American ship in the Gulf. That's from the source that I have from the Middle East. Very close to the source of this conflict. My American source, one of the 3 that I have, says that China and Iran have been working together on some technologies that are beyond U.S. capabilities. And then Iran claimed back when I was given this information here on May 25th, Iran has a weapon that can destroy every American ship in the Gulf. Now, isn't it interesting that our American ships did not, I repeat, did not, other than we had one destroyer that went up in there, got brave, but the Abraham Lincoln, USS Lincoln, did not go into the Persian Gulf. The ship sailed into the area. Tensions are very high, but they also have taken, U.S. military has taken this threat very seriously. All right, now, I'll go on with more information for you. As I said, put this together. Now, by the way, this here is on the Observer. This is John Bolton, and this is where one of my sources, and all the sources I have can tell you the same thing. The John Bolton, working very diligently with the Mayadeen in the Middle East there. It says right here, the founder in 1965, an opposition movement of the Pahlavi monarchy comprised mostly of younger members of Iran's traditional middle-class intelligentsia. The group worked alongside Iran's former supreme leader, Ruhollah Khomeini, to overthrow the Shah, who the United States supported and later provided asylum to after his overthrow. The MEK, which is the Mayadeen's, right here, let me just kind of highlight for you here. Okay, over the past decade, Bolton has endorsed regime change in Tehran at the hands of the People's Mayadeen of Iran. Right there, that place right there. Okay, the Mayadeen, according to my source originally, as I stated at the beginning, is who they believed was involved in the attacks in the Middle East there. I was also shared with me that Mike Pompeo, former director of CIA, also had traveled to Europe to try to defuse the situation, which let me know, quite frankly, President Trump doesn't have full control as the President of the United States. When you have to send your cabinet ministers to defuse those that seem to have the deep state's interests at heart, there's a divide in the administration. To make matters worse, my Israeli counterpart on June the 16th says to me, yesterday, and more going to happen in the future, is Iran's navy is being attacked and some boats sunk in their harbors. That actually happened on June the 7th. 6 of Iran's boats were sunk in the harbors there. This was done, notice the verbiage here, by a multinational group of sea warriors. And Iran can't do beep about it. I have no idea that nations, frogmen, are doing this. Great opportunity to prove those frogmen. Please take close note to that verbiage right there. Great opportunity to prove those frogmen for what they were trained for. I'm sure there are a few Japanese frogmen making sushi out of Iran's Navy boats and facilities as opportunity presents itself. Frogmen of multiple nations are sinking and lighting Iran's Navy and facilities on fire. Just heard this. I don't know if it's been on the news. There was only one article that I could find. I'm not to say there's more. This was one of those right there. June 12th, that was brought out by Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. Maybe others. I'm sure Iranian press has brought these things out. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But keep in mind, frogmen, multiple nations, sea warriors, multinational group of sea warriors. Don't let that slip past you. All right? Now, back to my Middle East correspondent. Shouldn't say correspondent. That's not the correct verbiage, is it, Steve? Contacts. June 17th. The Crown Prince of the United Arab Emirates has asked the Minister of Security Defense to create a guard of 200 men in collaboration with Mossad. With who? With Mossad. What was this beforehand? From my source with the connections with Israeli intelligence. Multinational group of sea warriors. And Iran can't do beep about it. I'm doing the beeps for you. You know the bad words are there. All right? So here are your multinational groups. United Arab Emirates created a guard, 200 men collaborating with Mossad. They chose 175 men, remnants of ISIS in Syria, as well as Al-Qaeda. Well, ISIL is what was actually given to me. I still call them ISIS, same group. But perhaps for some reason, if you use the word ISIL, it might identify a different nationality of ISIS militants. As well as Al-Qaeda. Yemen-based to start training by Mossad for operations in the Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Oman. The types of attack we are witnessing now. Sound familiar? Israeli intelligence was right on the money. Middle Eastern intelligence, right on the money. Let me go back again. And of course, U.S. intelligence also on the money. That is why Iran is in Yemen. let me back up. This is when it was being shared with me from my Eastern counterparts there that the pipeline, when the Saudis decided to move their pipeline towards the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, my source there was telling me this is the reason why Iran is in Yemen. The double attack on the ships in the Persian Gulf, as well as the drones, the pipeline was intended to show that Iran can shut down the alternative route as well. The storage thing is the UAE, United Arab Emirates. Once again, as I said, that name is coming up. Talking about sabotage attack. The fact is they still have to be done. They have to been able to figure out what hit them. The Speaker of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has today spoken about a secret weapon. Now, in this one here, it is alluded that some of the Mujahideen of Iran are actually part of that contingency. Now, if we go back, for example, and look at this picture here, because according to this last report on the 17th of June, Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, and these guys are all dressed in black, being trained. I'm assuming this means they were being trained in Yemen. Maybe that they are Al-Qaeda members from Yemen. So I could be wrong on that. They started training by the Mossad for operations in the Indian Ocean. Now, again, Mossad was involved in the training, and it's kind of interesting that my Israeli source calls them sea warriors. And Iran can't do blank nothing about it. I have no idea what nations, frogmen, are doing this. Well, to my good friend in the Israeli intelligence, now we know. Israel's not doing it, but Israel's training them to be able to do it. Now, let's go further. Okay? So we've got this here. We see John Bolton's involvement, right? And of course, this is where we're up to today. U.S. Navy, CNBC, reporting U.S. military releases new images of Japanese oil tanker attack. Well, you can play them, but they're just showing you close-ups. I thought this was rather kind of odd that you have the round hole and also you have this blown open part and yet another round hole right in there. I'm not a bombs expert, so I can't tell you what all that means. I don't know. All right? But they're just showing you more imagery here. And what it all means, I can't say. But everything is only to put your attention to something else. My video, when I first started out a few days ago, and I mentioned that they were torpedoed, we were doing a live broadcast, immediately we were blocked across the world on all smart devices. Smartphones, smart pads, etc. No one could watch it on that. You could see it on a computer desktop, but that was limited until it gave the United States ample enough time to come out and put out a story out there that would be false so that the people would bite onto it. All right? Anyway, let me take you to confirm something. Now this is moving forward to the 18th, but we're going to back up again to the 16th. On the 18th, it was confirmed with me. This is from, as I said, I have multiple sources, U.S. intelligence. Mines and the torpedoes, they were only a distraction. They were a distraction to cover up what the real problem is. And this is the technology that the Chinese are sharing with the Iranians. This is what one of my intelligence sources conveyed to me. I've been on multiple conversations over the last couple of days here trying to figure all these things out. That was very serious though. Now, But I want to back up. My Israeli source. And let me go, before I go there. My Middle Eastern source here had revealed to me that, as I mentioned to you before, the 4 to 6 ships that were struck on June 7th was actually done by this group that was trained by the Mossad, by the ISIS members, etc., that they've been trained by them for this purpose there. Part of the Mujahideen may also be involved in that with them, but we do know Al-Qaeda and ISIS militants were trained by Mossad for these attacks that you see happening right now. Could there be others carrying out these attacks as well? Yes, there could be. For those of you that are watching on our live broadcast, we are going to end the broadcast here, and we thank you for listening. Those of you that are watching on Patreon, just bear with me just for a moment. I will say this, though, in closing. Maybe just read between the lines. I'm not one for telling people to stock up or anything like that. But I also think that we shouldn't be foolish in our thinking either. You live here in the South, we get hurricane season, which we're in now. People are already making those preparations, those that are smart. I can't say that anything will happen, but I don't rule out the possibilities that could happen, as volatile as the situation is in the Middle East. It's a very difficult decision what to do for the President of the United States, military leaders, or do you just let it go? I don't know. And I can't say what the smart thing is to do. I don't encourage war of any kind myself. I think this is why we're in the problem we're in with it right now. It's because cooler heads have not prevailed. But I think it would be a good idea to make sure you have extra water on hand for your family, and extra food on hand. And make sure you're prayed up, is one thing I would say. If you want to support the work we're doing, we appreciate your support. You can do that at IsraeliNewsLive.org, and we thank you for that. Also, our mailing address is there as well. So thank you guys that are watching on Israeli News Live. God bless you, and thank you for watching. If you want to catch the rest of the broadcast, it won't be very much longer. There's just some things that I think is better I do not say here, because we're already risking what we're saying now. So, Erev Tov.